Hello, Internet. Welcome to PhiloMag, your philosophy and science central. Today we discuss the planet that we've all been waiting to colonize, Mercury. Yes, we all know that everybody's talking about our lovely homo colonizing Mars. We will all see Mars one day in like the 2030s or whatever. But how about we discuss something a tad bit unconventional, Mercury? Compared to Mars, Mercury does have an advantage. None. Mercury has physically no advantage over Mars by colonizing. It has the hottest days ever, but also the coldest nights ever. It has the most extreme altitudes, and there will be no chance for life to exist on the surface. So it has some nice mining opportunities, but it doesn't go much farther than there. You are not even closer to the edge of the solar system by going there. Really, you probably shouldn't colonize this place. Before you watch this video, you may want to get some context by looking at PhiloMag's Terraforming Mercury video. Now onto the video. Mercury has been dreamt about colonization for several decades. Ray Brackett, Ray Bradbury, Arthur C. Clarke, Isaac Asimov, and a couple of other scientists are amazing examples of authors who wrote about Mercury. This went from sapient robots exploring the surface to aliens living out there, usually with the idea that Mercury was a tightly locked planet with a hospitable twilight zone. As we find out, however, Mercury isn't all happy cakes from there. Mercury has an average night temperature 3.5 times the average cold temperature of Antarctica, and an average its day temperature 7.5 times the hottest temperature of Death Valley. And although Mercury isn't totally locked, its solar days are essentially 176 days, meaning one side is in it is basically always the sun on steroids, while the other is always Christmas. And with the low axial tilt, its polar regions are in permafrost. Its gravity is 38% that of Earth, and it is, on average, almost 100 million kilometers from Earth. With these extreme conditions, no wonder nobody thought of having even a little fun with Mercury yet. Anybody who would go there would have to deal with constant radiation exposure, decompression, temperature extremities, and any colony would have to be extremely dependent on expensive technology. Not to mention, trying to go there is the opposite way from exiting our solar system. For us to go to Mars, the asteroid belt or the outer planet's moons will be closer to the edge of the solar system, and as such, closer to exploring exoplanets and other stars in the vast universe. For us to go to Mercury would, well, be the opposite. But there are some actually sane reasons to colonizing Mercury. As a terrestrial planet, Mercury is home to a plethora of mining opportunities. It's abundant with silicate rocks as well as the metals such as iron and tin. However, unlike Earth being composed of 40% metals, Mercury is composed of 70% metals. Similarly, iron and nickel accounts for only 17% of Earth's while Mercury has the same two materials making up 42% of its value. Mercury is certainly bound for a futuristic economy and mining. With Mercury's close proximity to the Sun, it's no wonder why it's currently an inhospitable place for any form of life. However, with every downside comes an upside. We can use the Sun as a way to harvest energy in terms of solar panels, or more specifically, in the form of orbital arrays. Orbital solar arrays, or satellite solar arrays, are arrays of solar panels used to harvest energy from that of the Sun, but from space. Because they're in space, they can capture more energy in a lesser amount of time than that of grounded solar panels. The energy then could be stored in some fashion after being redirected to Mercury, or the energy could be redirected to other points in the solar system using Lagrange points, which are essentially in-space parkings for celestial bodies. As such, the visiting and colonization of Mercury doesn't only mean scientific studying, but it can also be used for commercial and even economical uses in the distant or even near future. However, just colonizing Mercury is in itself a challenge. After all, Mercury isn't free. It's expensive to get all or even any of the resources to colonize Mercury. Infrastructure will be expensive, spaceships will be expensive, mining will be expensive, shipping will be expensive. Even if robots made it cheaper by mining for us and building facilities for us, you can imagine that the amount of money to spend on Mercury would be more than just a couple $1 billion. Alongside all that, it would also mean a large fleet would have to make the journey within a short amount of time to live on Mercury. Unless if we send in robots first, we may need to send in thousands or millions of people or within a really tiny window. Well, not to mention, the colonists who come here will face a rather tough journey to there as well. So Mercury reaches its inferior conjunction or the point when it's close enough to us and in line with us to fly a ship there every 116 days. Not to mention, it takes only 147 days to make a flyby there. But landing there or orbiting there is much different from a flyby. Right? The messaging probe sent it and there over a decade ago. It took nearly 7 years just to get there because it just isn't easy to get there. And all the messenger probe attempted to do was orbit Mercury, not even land there. Even a 3 year trip for astronauts is simply just impractical because of food, water, fuel, and all of that really won't work so well for them. And even if you save fuel by swerving around planets, that's bound to lengthen the trip. Plus, a 3 year trip still wouldn't be very practical, less so 7. One huge reason why it's so hard to reach it is because of the gravity well. The sun is essentially a huge force of gravity in terms of our solar system. The solar system's center of gravity is inside the sun. As such, it creates a gravity well in which you need to lose some of your orbital speed and decelerate to start quote unquote falling. And why it works like this is because in space, almost in its relative, making it so deceleration is basically the same as acceleration. In short, this means that you have to lose energy to slow down. If you didn't get the paragraph of physics though, it's fine. Just note that it's hard and you're gonna use a bunch of fuel to get to Mercury. Probably more fuel to get to Mercury than the amount of fuel needed to get to the asteroid belt. And the asteroid belt is almost 3 times farther than us than Mercury is from us. So right now, it's not looking too good for you Mercury filets out there. It's expensive. It's practically death to live there. It's hard to get there. It'll be dependent on technology. It's just not a good home for you to really plan to live in. But fret not, because Mercury is still a potential habitat for people. More than a decade ago, NASA sent a probe known as Messenger, in which spent years swerving around celestial bodies, these gravities to reach Mercury in 2008. There it spent the next couple of years until 2012 at Mercury. However, it found something quite odd. The Messenger probe was meant to send in geological data, and not so surprisingly, it didn't fail to do so. However, in 2009, it was found that the planet was a lot more geologically active than previously thought. And in 2011, Swiss cheese-like structures known as hollows were found on the planet, similar to the craters and crater-like structures on the moon. These structures, though, aren't just random holes that are spotting the planet. They could actually mean tubes or caves under the planet, created by lava and which is carved out by the tubes. Now, why is this important? Because these tubes could essentially mean free habitats for humans to live. Well, not exactly free habitats. We still have to engineer and manufacture materials to build and construct there, but making a living down there will be a lot easier than trying to construct some sort of fun time on the surface. Not to mention, down there, colonies would have already come with benefits. They would be naturally suited to cosmic and solar radiation, temperature extremities, and they could be pressurized to create breathable atmospheres. Boom, a much cheaper and easier way to live on Mercury. But either way, despite the idea of living down in the basements of our Aunt Mother Earth's sister, colonizing is still a hard option. After all, there may be money loads of opportunities, but we need to spend a bunch of money if we even want to get those. Not to mention a bunch of technology would need to be engineered for such as well. And that's not even talking about any of the other challenges of living there. Challenges in which may be solved with terraforming. In another episode of PhiloMag, we talk about terraforming, or the process to transform a planet so it could resemble the Earth, especially so it could support human life. Make sure you watch it and subscribe to PhiloMag to make sure you watch our other videos. See you all next time!